22nd of August, 2025. And it's been, I think, over a week since I last did a video. I took a bit of a break. I was still tracking the major events that have happened, so I'll possibly get into that if I remember, including Pierre Poilievre winning in the Battle River Crowfoot. My goodness, Battle River Crowfoot district. He won that over 80%. And so he'll be back in Parliament in September. People should be back now. They're not. And again, I don't agree with everything that he says and shares, and bills that he's pushed and policies, but there are a lot that I do agree with. And he is way, way better of an option than Mark Carney for so many different reasons that I've said in so many different videos. And so anyway, it was a good time. I went to the Gaspé Z because I have a cabin off grid in the woods. And so I was checking that out. It was the annual fair in Shigwack, Port Daniel. People come from all over the place to go to this because there's so many different events that people can compete in. And there's country music live every single night that the fair goes on, including one of my cousins, Pamela Rooney, who's actually fairly well known as a country music singer. So Google her. And she's even won country music awards in Nashville, sings in Nashville as well. And she's from the Gaspé Z. So she was there singing. I didn't get to see her because we left, my sister and I, on Friday. And that's when she was singing. And I think maybe Thursday night as well. But anyways, there were other country music singers that we listened to, and they were great. Watched some lawn tractor races. That's very redneck. That was fun. Visited a lot of people, had a lot of good food. And yeah, saw a lot of animals. It's anywhere between a 13 and a half and a 14-hour drive, especially with dogs, because you have to stop every few hours, let them run out and go to the bathroom or just move their legs around and stuff like that. I have a really good setup. And my Jeep for the back seat for dogs. It's like a big platform, so you get more space. So like the leg room, like people usually have, like it's on top of that, and then netting, and then little compartments where you could put things in for them. Anyways, I don't know why I'm talking about all that, but it was a good time. And dogs swimming in the ocean. And yeah, so when I got back home, because it had been almost a week, I had to weed the gardens. And I picked a lot of my vegetables yesterday so I could start canning them. And yeah, so that was fun. So I made some tomato soup. I added in garlic and onion. And anyways, first I cooked it, let it simmer, blended it, and then put it in mason jars. And made a vegetable medley with huge cucumbers and green peppers. They are friggin' huge. My green peppers are like this friggin' big. And my radishes are huge too, and I'm going to share that. So anyways, on to Instagram. Because even though I wasn't doing videos, I was sharing quite a few things on my Instagram. So people are probably tracking this more and more. So Tom Artyom Alexandrovich, a 38-year-old executive director in Israel's National Cyber Directorate, INCD, was arrested in Las Vegas, Nevada on August 6, 2025, during a 2-week undercover sting operation targeting online child predators. He faces felony charges of luring a child with a computer for a sex act. Alexandrovich was detained at the Henderson Detention Center and later released on a $10,000 bond after reappearing before a judge on August 7th. He subsequently returned to Israel. Alexandrovich was reportedly in Las Vegas attending the Black Hat Briefing's cybersecurity conference. Cybersecurity, no big deal. His LinkedIn profile, which listed him as the executive director of the INCD under Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's office, was deleted following arrest. Court documents confirm his detention and release on bail, contradicting initial statements from the Israeli Prime Minister's office and the National Cyber Directorate, which claimed he was only questioned and not arrested. Okay, so there's that update. And then more on that. So Sigal Chattah, I think is how you spell her name, pronounce her name, U.S. attorney appointed by Trump, by the way, I think it was in April of this year, Israeli-born official, announced that her office will not prosecute Israeli child predator suspect Tom Artyom Alexandrovich, leaving the case in the hands of the local district attorney. This is odd, as the other 7 individuals charged in the same federal child sexting are being prosecuted by her office. Chadha has deactivated her X account following public backlash over the decision. And so, I mean, this is incredibly obviously bias. Incredibly obviously bias. And so she should be removed from her position. Absolutely. Now I'm having trouble loading. Okay. Oh, it didn't show. So even Marjorie Taylor Greene is calling it out. And so I'll see if I can just find it on my, because I did archive it. Oh, now you get to see some of the farm animals. This is from Gaspé. Le Gaspésie. See, that's the ocean, the Baie de Chaleur, which technically connects into the ocean. There's my dog. That's my husky swimming. He's pretty far out. This my other dog too. He was pretty far out. So cute. Here's lawn tractor racing. The trick is not to get too close if you're in the corners here, because rocks do kick up. Yeah, that's why they're leaving. I got better views. I posted this and like a few of my friends were like, that is the most redneck thing I've ever seen. My friends from Ottawa. Oh yeah. I went exploring in the deep woods with my dogs too. I think it was on Sunday, but I was gone for hours, and there was like 2 or 3 times where I got turned around. But luckily, with based on my life experiences, I was able to quickly realize where I was, circle back, and yeah, it was very interesting. Like very deep woods. I'm talking like 20 kilometers in, alone with my dogs. No internet reception, none of that stuff, and no one knew where I was. Anyway, so interesting. But I did have I had like a lot of supplies on me, and again, every road leads to a major road at some point, right? So like it was easy enough to recover myself if I needed to, but I did not. So I guess technically, I'm never technically lost. So who won the tractor pull? It was, his name was Dean Day. Yeah. So I knew every single person from childhood that was racing in that lawn tractor race. It's hilarious. Yeah.
Stay with me on this. This is good. Give me a.
This, my goodness, I called so many people about this, and I messaged Helen Gruce, because this is about her, who I've been talking about for years. I'm so glad she's finally getting the attention she deserves. So Mario just like he shared stuff on her, but I wanted to get into the Give Send Go that they're talking about. I've donated to it a couple of years ago, and I'm saying that to encourage other people to do the same. But she's already received over $105,000 in donations, and if you look at like my previous videos, so many of them I talk about the fact that she's already, because I've talked to her, and I was also there for her trial, or whatever you want to call it, the hearings, 211 Huntmar, which she's doing the sentencing on between the 3rd to the 5th of September, and I'm going to write up an affidavit for her. I also put up together something. This was last year, the year before, but for Ottawa Police Services, for basically like Hero of the Year. And so many people wrote in and recommended her. and friggin' government, man, they chose someone that like absolutely did not deserve it at all. He had a previous bad history, a reputation. I've talked about this in previous videos, but anyways, he got it. Brutal. She didn't, even though she deserved it. And now she's getting more attention in mainstream media. So I do consider Mario mainstream more as an independent journalist who's way more accurate than CBC and Global. That's for sure. And anyways, and so the miracle in this is that she has already spent over $100,000 in legal fees, fighting for Canadians, fighting for Canada. That's why she's not letting this go. And she's basically getting her money back, which is a miracle.
On this is good. Give me a second. Assume you're a police officer and you're investigating the deaths of young children, completely unexpected, and you're making phone calls trying to figure out what's going on, so you have to ask difficult questions. That's exactly what a police officer was doing. But because she was doing this, she was found guilty of discreditable conduct. I've never heard of that word before. Why? Because she was asking parents about their vaccination status. They determined
He's not entirely correct on this.
that she invaded the privacy of families by inappropriately accessing files of deceased children and asking one parent about their vaccination status. They said this was
And he didn't mind.
not authorized for her to do that. And obviously, the police officer's argument is she took reasonable steps
Yes.
based on a firm belief that she was unfairly charged for upholding her oath. And even the superintendent detailed that this detective noticed a doubling or tripling of infant deaths, and she saw it as her duty to investigate criminal negligence on the part of the government. And that's the aha moment. You see, you're allowed to do your job, you're allowed to investigate things of criminal nature as long as you don't investigate those in power. For those who have never been through litigation before or have ever been smeared through the legal system, it's very expensive. On the low end, you're looking at six figures. On the high end, you're looking at probably $250,000 or more. There's so many factors that go into it. So that's why someone set up a Give, Send, Go, basically a GoFundMe, in order to help fund her legal defense. So far, they've raised $105,000. If you agree with what she was doing, and if you think what the government did was wrong, there's a simple way: $20, $10, whatever you can. Show Helen support. We need police officers like her that hold those in government or anywhere else fully accountable. Politics should serve no role in the enforcement of their investigations in trying to find wrongdoing of what is happening in our society. Period. Stay with me on this. This is good. Give me
Yeah, I've said this before. Since 2016, I've worked with her, and so not only have I worked with her during for training and coordination for like the highest levels of the Canadian government who respond to natural and man-made disasters internationally. She was part of that group above and beyond her work as an Ottawa Police Services detective, and because she was exceptional. Okay, let me be clear. And I was still going to be using her, but like my contracts during COVID, first they got delayed because of the lockdowns and the mandates, and then they got canceled because I was not vaccinated. I couldn't even do them anyways because government was still pushing that. And anyway, but yeah, and so I've done countless videos on her, and even at the very beginning, I was saying that I think it was CBC, that journalist. She should be friggin' fired. Like, this girl is a traitor to Canada, and she should. Oh my goodness, no one should ever hire her again. And it was a smear campaign. It was lies. And at that point during COVID, 2022 is when she got suspended. Like that first weekend of the Freedom Convoy, and yeah, so over 20 years, Ottawa Police Services, and 7 of those years, she was working literally with SACA, which is the Sexual Assault Child Abuse unit in Ottawa. Ottawa is still like technically a major city. It's not as big as Toronto or Vancouver, etc., but it's still large and it's the capital. And there's a lot more cases. And so she was investigating the deaths of children under the age of 5. And so when she was seeing these, what they're calling sudden infant deaths, children that were otherwise healthy under the age of 5, dying without a reason, without a cause, she was seeing that even in over 500 cases, this was way above the average, way above the average. And as it's her duty, her job to investigate the reasons why and push that to her supervisors. And she was giving medical, scientific, and government data that I've shared to people on here as well. And you can see it in my older videos. But she was giving that. It wasn't conspiracy theories. It wasn't YouTube videos. It wasn't memes or anything like that. This was data that Canadians were not getting, especially even her supervisor, because respectfully speaking, her supervisor, who also admitted that the cases went way up during this period, and the only thing that was different was the rollout of the vaccines. And you could be questioned on other medical history as well within the family to try to connect causes. And then it goes to a doctor for the final report. And so, anyways, where was I going with that? So I'm just going to share that if you want to know more about Helen Gruss and the trials, and absolutely how much of a circus it was with Chris Renwick and the prosecution, it's just unbelievable. And so one of the titles, this is from over 4 months ago, Ottawa Detective Helen Gruss's guilty verdict, marred with errors and case law inversions, says lawyer. Helen Gruss, it's just one of the things I talk about in here. So hero cop Helen Gruss on trial, most important court case, it was over a year ago. And I have the Charter of Rights and Freedoms, which I have right there, or Charter of Canadian Bill of Rights. Helen Gruss, Canadian detective hero, crucified by her peers. Open trial continues. Over a year ago. Pat King, Helen Gruss, Chrystia Freeland, Mark Carney, and more. Donald Best, he also does good reporting on Helen Gruss. And Robert Krychek from Rebel News. Great work on uncovering this. And Viva Fry as well. And again, I mentioned Helen when I did the podcast with him. So again, 7 months ago. Yeah, her sentencing is soon. I think it's the 3rd to the 5th of September, and I would love to. Anyways, I just got back, and yesterday I was doing so much work that I missed, because when you live on a friggin' farm, you can't let it go for too long. And I tried to mow my lawn too, but my lawnmower, the battery died, and so I've been friggin' charging it. I waited a few hours, but it still wasn't charged, so I had to charge it overnight. Anyways. I'm not even at the one I wanted to get at yet. Yeah, some more on Helen Gruss. So police on God for Thee, I think they give more information on how you can write something up. Yeah. Affidavit testimony needed for sentencing of Ottawa Police Detective Helen Gruss. Yeah, so it is 3 to 5 September in Canada, and I believe, like, if it's where it was for the last several, it's going to be at 211 Huntmar. Yeah. Yeah, seeks precedent investigating potential crimes involving government officials or matters with political and societal ramifications. This is what I mean. This is such a big case. It really needs to make mainstream media. Yeah. And so you can actually access a draft affidavit. So, and the draft affidavit letter, visit the website at policeonguard.ca and look under the news section for the post. All the instructions are contained within the drafts. Okay. All right.
Stay with me on.
This was funny. I fact checked this, so it's true. So he's not the head, but he's one of the chief executive officers or whatever. So head of internet censorship in Ireland. Again, not the head, but he works really high up. Jeremy Godfrey worked as a government chief information officer in Hong Kong. So a man who helped build the Chinese censorship program is now censoring people in Europe and the US. Great. Great.
Stay with me.
I mentioned this, I think, in my last video, but I'm just going to go over it again because it's annoying. So Conservative premiers Doug Ford and Tim Houston do not congratulate Pierre Poilievre on his win. And so the last I checked, it's been since yesterday, but it sure is. It's true so far that Doug Ford did not congratulate Pierre Poilievre on his win. So yeah, this guy is such a criminal. And if you want to talk about extortion, like his decal business alone, he profited from the pandemic. Okay, so this was from Marjorie Taylor Greene. I'm starting to like her more and more. Why did our government release? I know left and right's part of the same bird, and there are people that are controlled opposition that make it look like they're on our side or sharing like the truth, but it's part of the steering committee's way of just like managing the chaos, letting out a little steam, a little bit at a time. So why did our government release a child sex predator from Israel who works directly under the Prime Minister of Israel? And now Netanyahu is lying and completely denying it. Why isn't Mark Levin pitching a hissy fit over this? Mark Levin, who I've said, part of the Heritage Foundation, Project Esther, I mean, and like a right-wing Zionist propagandist. And he gets paid to do it, right? So money is his god. And why isn't Laura Loomer rage posting about this and claiming she broke the story? Yeah, this is all facts. So this is from Liz Cronkin. Update: Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu is lying, claiming his executive director of Israel National Cyber Directorate, Tom Alexandrovich, was not arrested, according to a statement released to Mediate, the Las Vegas Metro Police Department's press release, which is still live. Just rules for thee, not for me. So this is my canned tomato soup. I'm telling you about it. All right.
Just got home from travel.
Okay, I just want to make sure you can see this. I gotta head back to my stream. Yeah, okay, you can see it. Those are friggin' radishes. Guys and girls. Crazy. Crazy. It's my dog. All right. Oh, yeah, so Barrick, Ralph Barrick, still not in jail. Don't understand it. Him or Fauci. Oh my goodness. And I saw this interview, not this interview, but this committee, and Marjorie Taylor Greene was questioning Fauci. And I loved it when she called him Mr. Fauci, not a doctor. She ended saying Dr. Fauci. I thought she was going to say Mr. Maybe she messed it up, but I liked everything else about it. Okay, so the virus that causes COVID-19 due to his research collaborations with the Wuhan Institute of Virology, WIV, and his work on gain-of-function research involving coronaviruses. Barrick co-authored a 2015 study with Shi Zhengli, the WIV's leading coronavirus researcher, in which they created a chimeric virus capable of infecting human cells, a technique that raised biosafety concerns. Although the experiments were conducted in Barrick's well-secured lab in Chapel Hill, North Carolina, he testified that he warned Shi Zhengli that the WIV's research was being conducted in labs with insufficient biosafety protections. It shouldn't be done at all, clearly. And I said this in previous videos, which I might share again. I like going through my archives and saying that I was saying this just to, again, show credibility here. Winnipeg, Manitoba, there's these bio labs all over the friggin' world where these were disseminated in the population, and then more so through the inoculations, which were not vaccines. Okay, specifically noting that some work was done at a lower biosafety level, BSL-2, than what he considered appropriate for such dangerous research. He stated, "You can't rule that out," regarding a possible laboratory accident at the WIV. Okay, described plans to create a SARS-like virus with a furin cleavage site, a feature present in SARS-CoV-2 through the project, though the project was never funded, allegedly. Again, this is from AI on Google. So this has fueled speculation, despite the lack of evidence that such genetic manipulation was ever carried out at the WIV. They won't even let us in to investigate, first of all. The House Select Subcommittee on the Coronavirus Pandemic, in its December 2024 report, concluded that SARS-CoV-2 likely originated from a lab leak. What did we say? And not even just one. Citing the use of NIAID funds for gain-of-function research at the WIV and the existence of a grand jury investigation into the pandemic's origins, although the Department of Justice has not confirmed the probe. While Barrick's lab at UNC has experienced near-miss incidents involving genetically engineered coronaviruses, including a 2016 safety breach. Anyways, this I just shared so that people can look at it. Look at Project Diffuse. Look at Ralph Barrick, gain of function. Yeah, anyway, mind blown. Okay, so I'm going to be sharing a video about Dave Cullum, and I already linked the video, so talking with Tucker. And so I only watched half of this video yesterday, and I was trying to do a lot of fact checking as I was doing it. I got a lot of notes. But he was talking about the QAnon shaman, and how, which is Jacob Chansley, and how he possibly has ties to Ukrainian Nazi operatives in the CIA. But and so I looked into it, not too much. But I will say that there's times that people take that opportunity, target up opportunity to exploit people, or try to connect them to organizations or agencies or committees that they wouldn't necessarily be aligned with had they known who that person was for the photo op. And I'm assuming that the QAnon shaman, again, I don't know, I got to look more into it, but they had said allegedly that he didn't know who this guy was when he did the photo op. He was getting a lot of people coming up to him for photos, and so that could be true too. So if anyone has any information on that, please let me know. I usually have a lot of good people that have emailed me on my Proton email address, a lot of good information. So it's Dawn, DAWN 189 at protonmail.com. Okay, so the photos from the January 6, 2021 U.S. Capitol breach show Jacob Chansley, shown as the QAnon shaman, standing near a man later identified as Serhiy Dubinin. I don't know how to pronounce that. An alleged Ukrainian operative and neo-Nazi. Chansley stated he did not know Dubinin, who approached him to take a photo. Investigative journalist Laura Loomer reported that Chansley confirmed during an interview with her and his lawyer that the FBI told him the individual pictured with him was a known Ukrainian spy. The FBI has not confirmed this statement. Dubinin, or 9, is reported to have ties to the neo-Nazi Azov battalion and was allegedly wanted by the Lugansk People's Republic authorities for crimes committed in Donbass. The photo of him with the QAnon shaman became widely circulated online, sparking speculation about his role and connections, though these claims have not been verified by U.S. authorities. And again, he's trying to claim that maybe there was a connection there, just like Ryan Routh and others. But again, this is possibly him being a fall guy yet again, and this could be people within government or working with the government, like these instigators and these agitators that make things a lot worse, especially during these events, could have planted this known Ukrainian spy to do this photo op with the QAnon shaman, to paint him again as a right-wing extremist, etc. And it's not... I mean, they even did it with Lee Harvey Oswald. Come on, this has been going on for many years. And so that's why I think that possibly even the feud that's going on with Nick Fuentes and Candace Owens and Tucker and PPD, they're all on the same side, and they both agree with each other for like 99% of things that they're talking about. And so, yeah, I think this could possibly be something that's staged by them, premeditated, in order to get more publicity. And it's working, because every single one of them are getting more viewers. Anyway, sorry, my throat's a little sore because I was driving with my sister and we talked for like 13 hours straight. And so my voice is a little raw. I'm not used to talking that much, despite doing all these videos all the time. Okay, so that is it for Instagram. Oh, some good news, some bad news. And so Dave Cullum.
Very few college professors do what college professors are supposed to do, which is kind of break through outside campus into the conversation among smart people about what the world is about. And in other words, they don't...
My radishes, this is just a question that was asked on my my stream. Radishes, they're not as big as turnips, but I'm gonna grow turnips next year 100%. I want to see how big I can make them get, or rutabaga, or both.
They don't kind of influence the broader culture directly, and you do, and you're an organic chemistry professor. How are you allowed to do this at Cornell? Are you allowed to kind of opine on economics, social policy, foreign policy? Like, what are your administrators saying when you do this?
I don't know if it's generally true, but Cornell's not giving me any guff. The only problem I had with Cornell, and we talked, we had breakfast and we talked a little bit about, I think my colleagues wish I would shut up, but they don't tell me to shut up, although, they've told me to stay on. I have kind of an intellectual Tourette syndrome where
Stay in your lane.
Well, I'll be in the middle of class, like in March of 07. In the middle of class, no warning, I blurt out the banking system's about to collapse. I'd written about it in 02, but I said, I think it's about to collapse.
This is an organic chemistry class?
An organic chemistry class. And they looked at me and I just said, look, I think the entire banking system's going down the tubes now. And it took another year and a half to...
Did they say that's not a related discipline? What are you talking about?
No one gave me guff for that. What was entertaining about that particular Tourette's-like outburst is that I had the same kids in an honors thesis course 2 years later. In the first lecture, one lecture a week, the first lecture I said, didn't I warn you? This is February of 09. So didn't I warn you that the banking system was going to collapse? They said, yeah, you did. And I said, did your econ professors tell you that? They said, no. And I said, what are those assholes paid for?
That was funny. That's just a clip from, obviously.
Yes. A friend of mine I was doing a podcast with that Saturday posted that late one night and said, I think this is just appalling when the old guy got knocked out by the riot police. And I watched the video a couple of times. I said, well, Chris, his name is Chris Irons. I said, we can talk about it on Saturday, but I have no idea what he was doing there. So this is in a tweet. And I said, he was poking riot police with something that looked kind of like a taser or something. Turns out in retrospect, it was a skimmer. And so I said, it looks like kind of a self-inflicted problem to me, right? I didn't say he deserved it or anything like that, but it is self-inflicted if you poke a riot policeman and he knocks you over, right? That's pretty much, It's a Darwin Award.
Bears and riot policemen shouldn't be poked.
Turns out, what I learned that night was that cancel culture is not organic. It was incredibly astroturfed. The speed with which it happened was staggering. It was automated. Within 20 or 30 minutes, email boxes all across the administration were filling with complaints. It went everywhere. I had to lock down my Twitter feed fast and things like that. And then
Okay, so I think, because I want people to be able to verify like this information with me, and don't take my word for it either, but he didn't give the name or anything like that. I think, and people can correct me if I'm wrong here. This is from the 5th of June, 2020, from ABC7. Buffalo video, officer suspended after 75-year-old man pushed down, cracking head. And so I just want to verify this first. Sometimes it's really hard to get the information, but I'll get to that. But it was still a great interview.
This video has been viewed millions of times since it happened yesterday. A warning, it is disturbing.
Okay, so why is he there? Pointing at the gear, his equipment. Yeah. I wasn't full force pushing him, but
The two officers involved in the incident have been suspended.
If you can't handle being pushed respectfully, then why put yourself in these situations? Also, but I do think that was unnecessary. But again, I don't know. Like was he going for gear or equipment? Did he, touch them? I mean, people can argue too that he's impeding their travel, their travel.
Ended pending an
They're just
investigation. Now, this
moving him out
happened
of the way.
just after curfew last night as officers were clearing the square in front of Buffalo City.
I mean, he is an older man. So anyway, I don't know. Jury's out. You can argue either way. All right.
Now was on sort of a war footing, trying to figure out what to do. Now, they're trying to figure out what to do just because they wanted the fire to be put out, right? So they weren't against me in that sense. It was during the lockdown, so
I don't think that anyone should have been fired for that, though, at all. I do believe that they didn't use like a lot of force. They were moving him out of the way. I don't think they thought that he was going to be, crack his head or anything like that. And so, and he did put himself in that situation. And if he is an older man and you're alone, I don't know. Anyways, I'll drop it. There's so much more to get into.
I didn't actually. There was the advantage of everyone was locked down.
Yeah, it was unnecessary.
But I wasn't sure Antifa wouldn't show up, and we know that's not organic either, right? And so I slept with some loaded guns, and
Good.
I was emotionally ready to blow someone's brains out.
How many tenured professors in Ivy League schools have guns at home?
I don't know.
Just you.
I would no. Well, there's probably more. We have natural resources department, stuff like that. And those guys probably use the resources available. But the one mistake Cornell made, they made two mistakes. First of all, it turns out the guy was a grifter. The whole thing was faked. And there's video footage of him telling people he's going to go get knocked down and people yelling at him for doing that. It turns out the blood that came out of his ear, I've talked to physicians, they said it would never come out like that. There's pictures of him on the gurney talking on his cell phone behind the ambulance. The press couldn't find him in any of the hospitals. He made a lot of money on GoFundMe. So he grifted while he was supposedly in a coma, his Twitter feed, which had all sorts of fuck the police kind of comments, was being scrubbed very quickly. And so turned out the whole thing in retrospect was a grift. So I was dead right. Cornell was on a war footing trying to figure out how to just stop this. There's graffiti all over the campus and stuff. And so they made two mistakes. One is at no point did someone from Cornell reach out and say, how are you doing? Right? Because a guy in North Carolina got canceled and he killed himself, right? I wasn't going to kill myself. It was unpleasant. I would admit that.
How long had you been at Cornell at that point?
That would have been 40 years.
40 years. So
right. Plus 4 years as an undergrad. So,
So you'd spent 44 years at Cornell at that point. So not a newcomer.
No. And by the way, the guy who was the provost at the time was a friend of mine. He was, I knew him from the day he got to Cornell. He's now the president. And it's useful. So when I told, I knew I was coming here and I asked a trustee, I'm going to be talking to Tucker. Is there anything you'd like me to somehow get out there? Not that I'm going to be there talking, man, but it would be stupid to miss it. And I sent a quick email to the president and said, is there anything? And he gave me a couple of bullets, but they were obvious. They were the obvious things. And the second mistake they made is eventually they put together some, and the Daily Sun was doing what I called the daily column, where they'd publish an article about what an asshole I was, right? And they'd write an article about the football team and get the end and say, by the way, did we mention Column's an asshole, right? That sort of thing. So so they finally wrote a letter denouncing me. And it was signed, interestingly, by the president, who I didn't really like that much, that president. The provost, who's a friend of mine, which was ironic. The chief of police, which was super ironic. And a couple other administrators. Who was missing was one of our deans, the dean of arts and sciences, who didn't sign it. He would have been an obvious signer. And he once said to me, what good is tenure if you don't have free speech? Now, they weren't trying to hurt me. They were just trying to put out a fire, and it put it out. So in that sense, they did the right thing.
Did they
But-
call and tell you they were going to denounce you before they did?
No. And by the way, I know a number of trustees at this point, and they all said they should have just shut up. So that was a mistake. More recently, a guy named Rickman, I think it was, made that statement about it being exhilarated that Israel got attacked, right? And he shouldn't have said that, right? That was stupid. But what people don't understand is that universities are this funny combination of free speech and academic freedom. We're supposed to foster speech, and that means dumb speech. That means sometimes hostile
I
speech,
agree.
right? And you know that drill. And then the president denounced him, same president, the one I didn't really like, the one who denounced me. And she said, this is only the second time I've denounced something a faculty member said. And I go, yeah, I was the first.
Hate to brag, but we're pretty confident this show is the most vehemently pro-dog podcast you're ever going to see. We can take or leave some people, but dogs, your cats, and your wallet will thank you. What about the then provost, now the president, who was your friend who denounced you? Did that affect your friendship?
No, not a bit. They were just trying to put out a fire, and I was ready for the fire to be put out. What helped is several trustees wandered in the president's office and said, don't even think about doing something stupid here. So I had, one day I put out a tweet, talk about how lovely Cornell is. Cornell is a phenomenal institution. So my loyalty to Cornell is tainting my vision, but Cornell is not like the other Ivies. It's not Harvard. It's not Princeton. It's in the middle of this idyllic setting we have 200 gorges. The people at Cornell are self-selected. They're the ones who want to live here, right? If there was a college in your neighborhood, it would be filled with people who love the outdoors. It would be filled with people who like this way of life, right? Cornell has that. And so, and by the way, it's ranked number 1 in a critical category. It has more top 10 ranked departments than any school in the country. And that's because we have so many different things going on here. So it's a very special place.
So the letter denouncing you was really just kabuki. I mean, it was
kabuki. Yeah, it was trying to just put out the fire, and it did. And I paid a price. I lost a consulting gig at Pfizer because of it, because I was now a Nazi, and
Wait, Pfizer didn't stand by you?
I'd consult there for 20 years, and they were going to Zoom consulting. And Pfizer doesn't need a controversial consultant either. So they just cleared the deck as well. So I don't hold it against. What I hold against Pfizer is the vaccine. I don't hold. The guys I consult with at Pfizer were great guys. And Pfizer, they were trying to get their job done right, stuff like that. And
Why do you, as an organic chemist, why do you hold the vaccine against them?
Because I think it killed a lot of people.
Yep.
And they knew it.
It's
I read
weird.
so I started writing about COVID right away. You can imagine, right? As scientists, I started networking. I started trying to figure it out. I'm in a group called Doctors for COVID Ethics for 4 years, where we had every major anti-vaxxer on the planet go through this group.
Wait, so you're a consultant to Pfizer. You're a pretty famous, probably one of the most famous organic chemists in the country. So if you say the Pfizer COVID vax killed a lot of people, it can't be dismissed as crank talk.
I think like David is wrong. He's saying that he understands that like these large companies or corporations, they don't need to have the drama of having someone that's like controversial or like a conspiracy analyst. And we need at least one in every organization. We need at least one to hold troops to task, show some accountability, and have people answer the important questions. And so even myself, I would consider myself to be controversial because of what I post online now on social media, because it doesn't go, it's not the same narrative of what the government and our major education systems are teaching. And, but what I'm sharing is actually more accurate than what they're sharing, which is the hypocrisy in that. And so I've said it before and I'll say it again, I want to get these contracts back, and people like Helen Gruss were working with me on these. And I think we need to give these courses to every single member that's in the House of Commons, every single member, and any major journalist or reporter within the mainstream media, especially because they're state funded. They have an obligation to be properly qualified and trained, which they are not. And I'm not talking about having a journalist degree, because that's nothing at this point. There are so many people that are just showing people that have these degrees that they are sharing superior content. Mario, John from News Updates for Real, You've got the people on Redacted. You've got I don't know Tucker. He might actually have a journalism degree, but again, he's been in this industry for decades, so it wouldn't surprise me. But he's getting his information from independents, absolutely, right? And whistleblowers, people that don't have journalist degrees, and so many others. Yeah, so we need to be in government.
Well, it could be, because I'm not a vaccine expert. I'm an organic chemist. So I have certain technical skills that probably help me burrow, and it's the genetics major as an undergrad. That helps me. I don't use the biochem or the genetics, but it allows me to sort of read stuff. And
But you think it killed a lot of people?
well, the Pfizer papers, which are papers written about the clinical trials in the VAERS database, show huge number of problems, right? And so the doctor for COVID ethics, we had every famous anti-vaxxer. One of the first ones I went to, it was Bobby Kennedy, and we had you name it. You name an anti-vaxxer. You name the Malones, the Ryan Coles, the Brian Artises, you can go on and on and on. They all went through this group. And we talked about things. 3 or 4 years became.
Is anyone keeping track of how many Americans were killed by it?
Well, it's very hard because, first of all, every flu death got absorbed into the COVID stats. So flu disappeared, which can't be true. And if it did because we were locked down, then how'd we all get COVID, right?
Point.
So there's now studies coming out from other.
Oh, I'm getting cut off. I'm told. Can people hear me speaking? My mic is on. It's showing. I did change to Starlink. I thought it would be better. It is better, but not perfect.
Other countries, because we have too many people who will look very bad when this data comes out. But the Japanese, for example, have come out and said some very strong things about what didn't happen. The head of the Japanese medical system, I think, came out and said that you could correlate the number of deaths with the number of shots, right? And so it's now that the gag order's been released, scientific studies are making it into the literature, and there's already thousands.
It's got to be one of the great man-made disasters of our lifetimes.
The lockdown too. I think you mentioned, or someone did in one of your podcasts, about the travesty. Maybe it was Walter, about the travesty of locking down. You show me. You tell me how old a kid is, and I can tell you what subjects he does not or she does not know.
See, he was mentioning Walter, and I'm wondering if he's talking about Walter Kern. And so if people can fact check that as well.
So if you were studying trigonometry the year that everything was locked down, you don't know trigonometry at all. We pretended to teach them. They pretended to learn. Nothing happened.
And do you see that now?
Well, you could see it going through the system. So, for example, our first year grads who were taking organic chemistry, when during lockdown, when they showed up, they were very weak in organic chemistry. Yeah, you can see it. So think of the poor kid who's 5 years old trying to learn how to read and write, and everything's through a mask, right? And there's imprinting periods, right? There's periods where you learn to read and write, or you're kind of in trouble. And so it was disastrous. It was absurd. And the whole thing was done by Fauci.
But how could...
And our Zoom group, by the way, had Scott Atlas. And so I asked Scott, I said, Scott, was it malicious? Fauci?
Yeah, I was going to say that, but I didn't want to say it because I didn't know if people can actually hear me because I was getting cut off. But his point about, and I've shared this in previous videos as well for like friggin' 4 years now, over 4 years. But like the flu basically disappeared during the COVID era. And then we had the exact same stats, the exact same numbers of people that contracted COVID that would have contracted the flu in previous eras. And so this was absolutely nonsensical to me. Just that alone should have raised red flags to people, especially within the medical community. Like, I don't understand it. But again, they were pushing a narrative. They were pushing an agenda. There was financial incentive. They were weak of character, did not have integrity, respectfully speaking, because they were the ones that were supposed to hold the line. Take a look at the inserts. Take a look at the, the original trials. Take a look at the fact that they were not aspirating needles. Take a look at the VAERS reports that were coming out even in February of 2021. And I've shared this so many times at this point for people that are watching this. I know it's very redundant, but I'm glad they're talking about it. I think it is Walter Kern, Kirn, who he's talking about. And so, again, don't take our word for any of this. I encourage people to take a look at these people that he's naming and cross-referencing, because they do share a lot of really good information that has been out there for years. But I think that more slowly people, especially within the last several months, are more open to looking at it. And while I'm on this tangent, Candace Owens just did a short clip in the last 24 hours regarding Megyn Kelly, and it looks like she might be questioning, shockingly enough, questioning what's actually going on in Israel and Palestine, and who's complicit in possible, events. I would say crimes against humanity, but she's not there yet, I don't think. But at least she's looking at considering going down these rabbit holes at this point, which again, it's a good start. Better late than never.
Fauci and Birx, did what they do was malicious? And I think it was. I mean, I think there's evil forces behind those.
Clade X, Project Diffuse, Event 201. And it involved, this was like Johns Hopkins University, funded by people like Bill and Melinda Gates and World Health Organization, Plandemics.
Too, but he took a different tact. He said, you cannot fathom how stupid those two are. That was his answer. He said, Fauci never gave a scientific argument, never. And he said, one day, this is astonishing. He said, one day, this is all recorded, so I'm not, talking behind his back. There is a recording on the internet with this. He says, one day he walks in with a scientific paper that Atlas had read. And so he's thinking, whoa, Fauci's actually going to say something scientific. Fauci went to say encephalomyelitis. Now, if you work at the 7-Eleven, you might stumble on that one. But if you're head of the entire health organization, you shouldn't. And he said he botched it so bad it was unintelligible. And Atlas said, come again? What'd you just say? And Fauci wouldn't repeat it. He said Birx was yanking shit off the internet, making pie charts, having not a clue.
Yeah, and I don't know if I finished that tangent, but with the VAERS 2021, February of 2021, and then March of 2022 showed that people were contracting COVID and multiple other adverse events via inoculation, and there were fatalities.
Man, not a clue.
That's terrifying.
Now, here's
hold
the
on.
Chris Malice, though. He didn't speak up, I don't think.
Fauci.
Atlas. I think he sat there.
Can I ask you to back up just a moment, though? So you're describing now incompetence, but you alluded earlier to malice. What do you think the dark forces behind Birx and Fauci were?
Well, I think first of all, they love the fact we're talking about whether it came out of a lab in Wuhan, because that way we're debating whether to blame the Chinese or not, right? When in fact, I think it came out of a lab probably in North Carolina. A number of guys have tracked both the disease and the vaccine back years before it showed up on our dinner plate. I think low level of malice would be.
Wait, you think it came out of a lab in North Carolina?
Yeah, Ralph Barrick. Yeah, you can follow. A guy named David Martin has followed the path.
Sent to Wuhan. And the same thing with Winnipeg, Manitoba, top secret scientists from China. Zero accountability there. And again, there's these biolabs all over the world.
Trail. And an artificial organism can be patented, not a natural one.
Yes.
And you can follow the patent trail on COVID. And you can follow a vaccine patent trail, and you can watch it get moved around, move from point A to point B.
If it was created in North Carolina, how did it get to Wuhan? And
because
what was that?
We were funding research in Wuhan because we were not allowed to do gain of
right.
Sorry, I keep tapping the table.
Oh, it's all right. This is a topic that deserves some table tapping.
I've done podcasts where I have headphones, and I have three Boston.
Yeah, I don't like calling it a lab leak either. I mean, because it was taken out of the lab. It was taken out of the lab, but I don't think it was by accident. And so I could be wrong in that. I don't think it was by accident, and I think it was in multiple areas. And I think that more people contracted illnesses after inoculation. And even what they were saying, they were classifying. And again, I'm sorry for people that have watched my videos on this. I've done so many videos where I've showed technical briefings and notes and so many reports. But within the first 2 weeks, they were saying that people were not classified as being vaccinated. And that's also where, in the short term, for the short term adverse events, where people were dying. And that's why when people were saying that people were dying of COVID, this were like, how many of these people were dying because of getting the inoculation and being classified as being unvaccinated? Many people. And that, again, should have been another red flag. And then looking at the deaths of elderly people in April of 2021, this needs to be investigated, because there are people within Ottawa and Montreal, people that work in morgues, etc. And they said that during these periods, massively increased, despite the fact that the pandemic was declared in March 11th of 2020.
Carrier, soon 4, and they snore. I can't hear them because my headphones are noise dampening. And then I listen to the podcast and hear this humongous amount of snoring behind me. So I'm aware of background
You didn't
noise.
bring the terriers this morning.
I didn't bring the terriers, no.
So, but you just want to flesh this out a bit. You think it was created or begun in North Carolina then?
I agree. Yeah. Lockdowns, insane media hype, weird distancing measures are enough to make people sick. Staying inside your home, especially during like the colder months, especially in Canada, where there's so many toxins and chemicals in the air, whether it be from air fresheners or Glade products or detergents or smoke or you name it, and not having that fresh air, not being out in the sun. People need like a certain amount of sunlight per day to prevent vitamin D deficiency. I think vitamin D should be considered more of a hormone than a vitamin. And people not walking. So people that were more overweight, they had more adverse side effects or illnesses, as opposed to people that were had a healthy body weight. And people that lost weight, if you lost 5-10 pounds during this period, it would have actually done more for you, for your immunity, than getting the inoculation. And this was very clear. The science was very clear. And then again, how people were eating. People were not out, in their gardens eating organically. A lot of people were having their food friggin' delivered to them via DoorDash or delivery apps, curbside, and a lot of processed foods. So people were not eating healthy. And they even said that during this period, on average, people gained 15 pounds. Gyms were shut down. People were not able to even go to dog parks. These were all closed. This is all ridiculous. And I've said that if you are healthy, you are less likely to have extreme outcomes to any virus, disease, or illness or injury, and the recovery rate is higher because you're not constantly or chronically inflamed. And and people not having a sense of value, sense of purpose, because their work was shut down, including mine. And I would argue that my work that I was doing was very important and more essential than, respectfully speaking, people working at Costco or Walmart or the liquor stores or the pot stores. And but because I was talking about all of this stuff, it wasn't popular at the time. I remember even looking at the stats, like the percentages that came out of the US and Canada, and it was looking at left versus right and how they would respond to people that were unvaccinated. And so many more people on the left were talking about they would want the unvaccinated to go to jail, to have their kids removed from them, to be in concentration camps, essentially, to suffer, severe charges and reprimands, and should be outcast from society. All of this stuff, it was just so, the level of intolerance was unreal.
Brought to Wuhan
to be elaborated, to be studied, so I think we took everything offshore because it got gain of function got banned in the U.S. But I don't think we banned it. There were something like 36 bioweapons labs in Ukraine. Of U.S. origin.
Yes.
So why is Ukraine perfect? Ukraine's perfect. To run a bioweapons lab, you need first world infrastructure.
Yep.
And third world people to test shit on. Ukraine's pretty much got that, right? Because Fauci, for example, in the United States, when he had to do clinical trials, when one of his lower rank. They'd go to foster care. They would do clinical trials on foster children.
What?
Yeah.
Yeah, you got to read Kennedy's book. Yeah. He did an estimate. They used an estimated 14,000 foster kids to do clinical trials. They said the kids would figure out they're getting sick and they wouldn't want to take the meds.
That's like Nazi.
So I think Fauci's been doing damage to people and killing people for many, many years. Yeah.
So we made a pledge only to advertise products that we would use or do use. And here's one that I personally used this morning. It's Liberty Safe. There's a huge one in my garage. It is the company that protects your valuables. High-end safe lines represent the pinnacle of American-made. They're made here in the U.S., pinnacle of American-made security and craftsmanship. They're more than just safes. They are a safeguard. They've got 7-gauge thick American steel, and they're beautiful. Any kind of paint color you want, polished hardware. We have one. They're really good looking. They do not detract from a room. They enhance a room. I keep my father's shotguns and all kinds of other things in there. You can keep jewelry, money, anything else that you want to keep safe. When you put your belongings in Liberty Safe, you can just relax. Safes come equipped with motion-activated lighting, drawers for storage, locking bars, dehumidifiers, and up to 150 minutes of certified fire resistance. You can customize them any way you want. They are the best. We highly recommend them. Visit libertysafe.com to find a deal or learn about how you can protect what matters most to you. Demand the best. Liberty Safe. But to do clinical trials on foster kids, I thought after the Second World War, when both the Japanese and the Germans were doing things like that.
Nuremberg Code.
Well, exactly. It was codified there, but
Yeah, I like this conversation with Gonzo Johnny here. So the one big thing debunking the lab leak, but this is what I mean. It's these were created in these labs, and then like a lot of these illnesses, and then even for like the making of vaccines, because these vaccines, these mRNA vaccines were created before the pandemic, right? They were saying that it was rushed and they were creating it after, post declaration, but that's not true. And but I do like the fact that even Pat King, and he just responded back to me just in the last few days, but I just got it. I think it was on Saturday, but I just got it yesterday because again I was driving, and then I was so busy yesterday. But I want to do a podcast with Pat King, and I was talking to him, and I don't think he's reached back out yet. And I would get if he wouldn't want to do a podcast with me because I am fairly controversial, but I want to get his take on COVID and updates on him. And long story longer, he was out in Alberta, and in 2021 he sued the government or took them to court. And they had to drop, and they messed around with him first. They were giving him different court dates, different locations, different timings to try and make it where he would miss these court hearings. This is how brutal this our government is, like this two-tiered justice system. But to prove that they were able to isolate a variant, prove that you were able to isolate the virus, because they were saying like, how are you able to say that there's multiple different variants of this virus if you haven't even isolated the virus? And that is still true till this day. And so I hope that Pat King messages me back and does agree to do this podcast with me. I just want to talk about COVID. We don't have to talk about anything else because, he was one of the front runners in 2021 of friggin' trying to go after the government. And he's a friggin' hero too. And he has been so vilified in the courts, all these charges against him and people thinking he's some kind of a right-wing white supremacist. He's not. And, we have not yet, ladies and gentlemen, and then this is proven in the courts in Alberta, Canada, 2021, we have not isolated the virus.
For scientists, but for the rest of the world and certainly American culture, we were taught that testing potentially dangerous drugs on people without their full consent or on the weakest among us or, euthanizing mental patients or whatever, all that was bad.
Right.
I thought that was one of the big lessons of the Second World War.
Well, as we both know.
Yeah, so many different scientific experiments, like beyond Nuremberg 2.0, like what we got out of that, what we learned out of Nuremberg. And but where was I going with this? God damn it. Let's talk about COVID and the variants and stuff like that. No, I lost it.
There are no rules.
Sorry.
Well, is that the truth?
There are no rules, right? There are none. There are rules for us, you and me, but there are.
Oh yeah, so what we knew from the beginning, people within my small network, it was much bigger before, but over the years now it's slowly dwindling because of everything else I'm talking about. But we were saying that this was not a naturally occurring virus that came out of a wet market from a bat, or whatever people were saying it was. We knew that to be untrue. And so the terminology might be a little off, but it's the explanation is that it was not naturally occurring within, that it wasn't contracted in nature.
Subjects
Some
for
kind of
which people
mutated
could be thrown
natural
in prison.
virus.
A great example would be Diddy. So what happened with Diddy? I think what happened with Diddy is Diddy had a bunch of very incriminating tapes. I think, Epstein light. And
Yeah.
I think they arrested him to round it all up. All the data. I think they did it to get all the data away from Diddy because he was being sued in civil court. And the guilty party said, we got to get it out of there before the civil court gets it. And so they arrest Diddy. What'd they just convict him of? Nothing. They could have put him away for 20 years based on what he did to Justin Bieber. Right? They didn't even get him on any of that. So it's a classic case. I know I sound like a nutcase, but you've had a lot of nutcases on your shows.
I had a guy.
My brother is trying to dial me back. His day, they're going to think you're a nutcase if you talk about all the things you think about. And I go, well, I think that ship has sailed. As I said to
I thought that was the whole point of academic research was the predicate for it, the basis of it is free thinking.
Well, but according to Douglas Murray, I'm not supposed to talk about it unless I'm an expert.
Right?
Well, you are a demonstrable expert in your area. I mean,
which is not Diddy.
It's not Diddy. You're not a tenured professor of Diddy studies at Cornell.
We could have it. We do have subjects and
So you think the point of arresting Diddy was to shut down inquiry into what Diddy was doing?
Get the data, right?
Well, that's clearly the point of the
Hunter
first
Biden's
Jeffrey
laptop.
Epstein arrest.
Hunter Biden's laptop.
Tell me your view of Hunter Biden's laptop.
Well, Sydney, what's her name? Lawyer, come on. Sidney Powell,
Yep.
elite lawyer, now down a few notches because she worked for Trump, and that always gets you in trouble.
Yep.
Said that if Hunter Biden's laptop were ever released, if Anthony Weiner's laptop were ever released, the government would fall. Weiner's laptop had kill switches in it. I mean, it was filled with crap that wasn't supposed to be there. We never get to see it. Supposedly 9 cops watched the videos on Weiner's laptop. They had to keep leaving the room because they couldn't stand what they were seeing. And all 9 are now dead. And there's names and faces and deadness, right? They're real people. Now you can say, well, maybe they died for other reasons. I go, but it's still 9 cops. And, it's like the 5 cops who died after January 6th, right? 4 of them were suicides. According to AI, there were about 80 cops really in the thick of things. 4 of them died from suicide. I don't need any more information to wonder what the hell's going on there. That's one of those standalone observations where I go, that's not right. The math of that doesn't work for me.